I lived there about 10 years. I felt it was time for me to move on.
I couldn't choose what I was going to eat. We lived on $30 a month spending money. They just restricted you for everything you did, just about.
As far as therapy, no. I didn't receive any. I feel like I was in prison.
Illinois historically has relied very heavily on institutional settings. You go back to the 1950s, they were these huge brick complexes located throughout the state. Over time, in the 60s and 70s, some of them started to redesign the institutions to have what looked like group homes within a campus. So, unlike some states that really tried to move people from state-operated institutions into group homes and supportive housing, Illinois really depopulated our state institutions into a large system of privately run institutions that were paid for by the government. That model exists today.
The institutions for mental diseases, which is a particularly horrible name, had more than 6,000 people. The institutions for people with developmental disabilities, both private and public, had more than 10,000. And the people in nursing homes, just in Cook County alone, was close to 20,000. We're talking about tens of thousands of people, most of whom we believe, almost all of whom we believe, could be better served in their own homes, in the community.
In 2004, only 30% of individuals were living in settings for 6 or fewer. By 2006, we had dropped to 51st, so we were dead last. We also include DC in our analysis, which is why we have 51 positions. Some of the states that have closed their institutions have realized cost savings of 25 to 50%. And we've also seen from the research improved quality of life, increased choice, increases in adaptive skills, but I think it's more about a civil rights issue.
There have been a lot of different efforts for groups that have been marginalized to really make a difference and to sort of be empowered. People with disabilities really didn't start to exercise their rights until much more recently, which really eventually then led to the passage of the ADA.
And pretty much overnight, when the law passed, when we had that legal tool behind us, we were able to get in the door and start having dialogue with people who run programs and operate facilities so that we could be part of the solution.
That promise as a legal matter was realized in 1999 when the Olmstead case was decided, and the Supreme Court said, yes, unnecessarily institutionalizing and segregating people with disabilities is a form of discrimination and is illegal under the ADA.
Because Illinois is so heavily institutionalized, we felt like this would finally be the catalyst to make change in Illinois.
However, time passed, no plan came. What they called a plan was really just a recitation of those things that they had already done.
We gave her the letter to the governor with our demands, and she promised that we would get a response right away.
It was a setup for failure, to be very candid.
A lot of different advocacy groups got together and put out there really where Illinois needed to go and why there had been no progress made in the 5 years since Olmstead had been decided.
We have the model. We know it works. We know it's cheaper. We know people like it better, and we still haven't done it.
The game plan was to have a three-pronged, well-thought-out legal attack on the Illinois system of institutionalization.
The class action device allowed us to bring together these various individuals whose voices might not be heard without a class action loudspeakers, so to speak. The system as it was set up was so Byzantine that it was impossible to know who to call.
I don't know how any lawyer could have made those calls without the brain power and the experience of Access Living, Equipped for Equality, and the ACLU, who had been dealing with different facets of these issues for decades.
The cases were expensive, they were long, they were difficult. We had 3 different judges with 3 different sets of preferences about what would happen.
we're the only state that I'm aware of that has done a comprehensive approach affecting all the different types of people with disabilities, more or less simultaneously.
I dream of the day in Illinois and in the rest of the country where the fact that somebody has a disability doesn't dictate where they live.
That's what we should strive for, a society that includes everybody.
Because of these cases, thousands of people in Illinois will have an opportunity to move out of institutions and to receive services in the community and live the lives they envision for themselves.
Even people with the most significant disabilities, especially people with the most significant disabilities, they have demonstrated to the world that they can move mountains. Which one of them is going to be the next school teacher of your child, or the next president or congressperson, or the next scientist, or the next Bill Gates? We just don't know until we unleash that potential.